So hello and welcome to Bold Business Bits. This is Ros Jones and today I'm delighted to be joined by Jen Blacow-Hughes, Managing Director of Optimal Electrical and also a supporting artist in film and television. So hello Jen.
Hi Ros. Hi. Thanks for having me.
It's lovely to have you here. Now this podcast show is for phenomenal female business bosses in Yorkshire, but I understand you weren't always from Yorkshire.
No, so I was born in Preston, so I was born on the other side.
Oh, but you came over to the light.
Yeah. Leeds is home now, definitely.
Fab.
Although I do have a lot of love for Preston.
Yeah, of course. But tell me, so you're the MD of Optima Electrical. So tell us about your business journey. How did you get to be where you are today?
I had a bit of a difficult time as a teenager. To be fair, growing up, I didn't manage to go through the traditional education system. I left school around age 14 and I got the grand sum of 2 GCSEs, a D and a C, which I don't even remember taking. I was quite poorly with my mental health as a youngster, so I was sectioned in a unit long term when I was a teenager. So my school time was basically an hour a day, falling asleep off the antipsychotic medication that they gave us. So yeah, I didn't really have a great start in terms of my education, but I always had ambition. I knew that before I got unwell, I was very outgoing. I did a lot of dance and drama. I had big ambitions, big goals, absolutely loved being centre stage. It's just after I kind of came out of adolescence and got back into the community, I'd kind of lost all that. And I got into exercise and fitness as a way of helping me manage my mental health, etc. And I also met some fantastic people as part of my fitness journey. I decided I would go to college and do a BTEC, which I could get onto after doing some like level 1, level 2 sort of training. I'd had a personal trainer who was still one of my best friends. She quite older than me, but she used to train me as part of a sort of NHS initiative. And I just idolised her. I wanted to do what she did. I wanted to help other people with their mental health by using exercise and fitness. So I went on that journey to become a personal trainer and qualified when I was about 20. And then I just jumped straight into the world of work. I worked as a fitness instructor and a personal trainer for about 4 years. But I still had this niggling sort of thing that I knew I liked what I did, but I just knew I had a bit more in me in terms of what I wanted to do in life. And at the time, I used to be really interested in HR because I used to see HR happening in the company that I was working for, and I was wanting to sort of see if I could forward myself. So I wrote a letter to Leeds Beckett, now known as it was Leeds Met, now known as Leeds Beckett University, explaining my situation, explaining I had no qualifications apart from like an MVQ or my fitness stuff. But I really, really wanted to go to university. I really wanted to, see what I could make of myself. At the time, by this point, I've moved to Leeds with my husband, who is massively supportive. So I can't stress that enough. It's not, probably wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. Maybe could, I don't know, but that was a big part of it. And they invited me in for an interview and said, okay, we'll meet you. We'll see if we can give you a chance. They asked me to write a 1,000-word essay on something random. I think it was why I wanted to go to university. I sent that in, and then off the back of that, they gave me a place on the board. So I was 21 at the time, so I was a mature student, and I went through, while still working a lot of hours in the first 2 years, I also managed the course alongside that. Pretty much moved away from my parents when I was 18 or 19, so I was working a lot of hours, as much as I could, doing the course, and then I graduated in 2014 when I was 24 with a degree, which was a massive achievement for me, having had no education after the age, no proper education after the age of 14. So yeah, that just kind of got me to a position where I was like, well, where do I go now? What do I do now? I don't want to be a personal trainer forever. It wasn't what I'd expected it to be. I was expecting to come in and help change people's lives and things like that. But pretty much nearly everyone that I trained, although I absolutely loved my clients and still have relationships with a few of them now, a lot of people just wanted to tone up, lose weight. And it was nothing. It was not about what I wanted to do it for. So whilst I was working as a PT, I was referred a client who had been with a different personal trainer who had since left, and then basically they were referred to me because whoever the manager at the time, thought that I would be really good for them because of my interest in mental health and disability, and sort of having empathy for people who might struggle with the sort of day-to-day life, etc. So I was referred to this client, and I was training her for quite a while, and at the time she was leaving her job to set up a company to help people with autism and neurodiversity in employment. So I was really excited, really interested, and I kept asking her, how's it going, what's it doing, and she gave me like updates and stuff. And then one day she turned around and said, I've got some funding to take somebody on, would you be interested? So I was like, well, I'll give it a go. I won't say, you don't know until you try. And so I ended up doing like 5 or 10 hours a week, I can't remember, for this woman. And it was like mind blowing because she was just setting up a business. It was all new. I'd always had a thing where I wanted to run a business. I don't know why. But I never saw myself doing it because I always felt like I'm not assertive enough. I'm not organised enough. I'm not money motivated enough. I don't, I just couldn't imagine employing people. But this was a really good opportunity to do that, but also help people, which is why I eventually went into what I was doing, and because of my experiences. So I decided after quite a short while that I would walk away from my job as a personal trainer. And although we didn't have the funding to pay me, I only had 10 hours a week, I think, funding to pay me. I decided to work with her full time. So I just volunteered for the rest of my time because I really wanted to see this as a success, and I saw the potential of it. And 7 years later, I'd gone from being her support worker to a fellow director of the company. We'd had various different sort of staff and volunteers that had come through. We were supporting people. We were doing workplace assessments for businesses to help employees with autism. We were doing sort of voluntary work for autistic adults that were unemployed. It stood the test of time, and I'd grown so much. My boss then was super supportive. She basically said to me after about 4 or 5 years, you should get yourself on you've got the ability to do a master's. I sort of thought about it, and then I applied for an MA and did that whilst I was working.
Wow.
For the time, pretty much with this business, and then I ended up passing that with a first class distinction. So I was, again, another thing that I just sort of knew I could do, but I just sort of just always wanted to do it, but I'd luckily found this path, this journey of people that I could support, but also who supported me.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately in January last year, I had to leave that job, partly because my mental health took a massive dive. I, had a really bad period where I pretty much, lost all control of my own rights and agency. I was in a really bad way.
Was there a trigger for that, Jen?
Yes, there was. Without going into too much detail because of the sort of sensitive nature of it, there was a particularly stressful event happening with the company that I was working with. And those particular events were they were very, they aligned a lot with some of the past trauma that I'd had.
Yeah.
Because I'd had some trauma as a younger child that was pretty, could have been the trigger for, why I got unwell later on in life and whatnot. And it was that. Also, I had lots of other personal things going on. It was almost like, I felt like I was being persecuted for things that I'd not done, but my brain likes to sort of make things up and make it hard for me to be able to see reality sometimes. And also just lots of different stressful things. My mum had a major heart attack when I was 27, 28, and I'm really close to my mum, and we nearly lost her about 3 times. And then at the same time, we had some stuff going on just in the family. And then I had this major stress on with work, which was threatening to completely destroy the company that we'd spent so long to build and what we cared so much for. And so whenever there was any sort of news around that or any sort of, and we were so tired and stressed out because of it all, it just, like I've always described it, I can manage my mental health. Like I've got severe OCD and I can manage that really well usually. I obviously struggle with day-to-day life, but usually I can do, things that I can, work and things like that. But when things get really stressful, things that I can't control, then it becomes very difficult to manage. And then it gets, because it's not, because I have to work so hard to kind of manage it anyway. When things come on top of that, it then just becomes impossible. So I think it was definitely all of that. And then I was unemployed by January 2022. So I'd gone from sort of being a director of this business and, having other things that were looking up for me and to just being completely, in a hospital, unemployed, completely broken. So that was January 2022. And at the time I was with my, obviously my partner, my husband, Rob, is an electrician, but he was working away a lot Monday to Friday, which is very difficult for us because we couldn't really have a life together. And then it just felt like the right time to put some of my time and energy into helping him to create a better life for himself and create a business. I knew he's very capable of, he's a fantastic electrician. And I basically sort of took the reins of that and said, right, we'll set up a business then. I'll try and do all the businessy things and you just go out there and be a really good electrician. And that was, I think it was May we registered the company, 2022. And then by 6 months we had our first big contract, which is just kind of really sort of, took the business to another level. And then we had our first hire in December 2022. And then that kind of leads us to where we are now. And obviously in the midst of all that, I signed up to an agency to sort of go back to the acting side, which is really a passion of mine. And then I've done a few jobs there as well. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And sometimes I feel like I kind of have to sort of pinch myself and think, is this real? Is something bad could happen any minute? It's like things are actually going okay. But yeah, that's basically how I got to where I am now.
Wow, it's an amazing story. What do you think what's the thing that keeps you going, Jen? Because you've had certain knockbacks. So what is it that keeps you getting back up and going forward again?
I think a lot of it is family, because that's at times there's times where I've not been able to do it for myself particularly. They've helped me keep going and push on and try and keep my head screwed on, if that makes sense. I've got a faith that's a massive thing. I feel if I do the right things and I follow, where I'm being guided to, things will be okay. So making those big jumps, those big risks, spending quite a large chunk of our savings on setting up the business without knowing whether it was going to do anything or not. When sort of, my health has been so precarious as well, at the same time, not knowing what the future holds. I just always have like a comfort in the fact that there's bigger things out there that are watching over us, and it's not, sometimes you can't rely on yourself. You need that extra, that extra strength from something else. And I find that from my faith. So that's the kind of main two things, I think: family, faith, and just general drive as well. I don't sort of feel able to kind of just make do with things. I think it's just, there's always got to be some sort of development and progression going on, or else you just stagnate, I think.
Well, we say if you're not growing, you're dying.
That's right. It's very true. And just like, it's just like I think learning, having a childlike wonder of everything is really
Yeah.
important as well. It's like when I do the supporting artist work, just like watching how they do everything. You know, I feel this like excitement, like a child again, and I think that's really important, not to lose that.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be drummed out of us, kind of, but I think if we can tap into that, it's just like have that childlike joy, if you like.
Yeah, and it's always down to, you know, if one of my sort of things has always been about wanting to help others, and that kind of reflected in my path up till now. So this is the first time I've really kind of doing something that's kind of not necessarily selfish, but something that's more aimed at putting me in a position where I'm a lot more stronger, and, you know, have more financial freedom and things like that. And that means that I can then focus on doing what I really help. I mean, I still volunteer for the organisation that I used to work for with my own time. But it's not, to be honest, I'm not volunteering for the organisation. So I just took it upon myself to help some of the people that I was helping before, and it's just what turned out to be like a kind of, you know, a natural thing. And I would always probably do that. So I think knowing that, you know, if you're not strong enough in yourself, and if you're not sort of, you know, if you don't put yourself ahead, then you're no use to other people who might need your help in the future. So that's another reason as well that I keep going, because there's you're no use to anyone if you're not strong yourself. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. And what does the acting give you?
It gives me a sense of freedom and self-expression. It's a hobby, really. It's something that I don't see it as work, because it's something I would do for fun. Yeah. So I do some couple of acting classes once every week, every couple of weeks. I have a kind of a desire to sometimes play a different character, not because I want to escape from my own character, but because I feel like I can express myself better through characters that aren't necessarily myself. It gives me a bit of a sense of what it felt like when I was younger, and I used to get this buzz when I came off stage. Even just backstage, it was like the whole thing was just a massive adrenaline rush. And I think, you know, if you can get a bit of that in your life, wherever you can get, some people do motor racing, some people do parachuting, bungee jumping, you know, that's my sort of thing that gets me going. So to do it professionally, and to, you know, it's a privilege. It's a massive privilege. And it's you know, it's good fun. Yeah, love it.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Joan. It's been wonderful to speak with you and hear your story. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.